Brendan O'Brien.
And I am Reena Ezra.
And guys, we are so happy to be back again, and we are joined by our newest guest onto the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ed Faver. Ed, thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've been waiting quite a while.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me, and I was overjoyed to hear from you last week. It was great.
Yes, thank you. Ed, where are you calling from today?
Yeah, we like your space, your room.
Roselle, New Jersey, which is, I'd say about, on a day with easy traffic, 20, 25 minutes outside Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where that part of the turnpike that gets the bad reputation for New Jersey with all the refineries and all that, that's not far from, or that's how I get to New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't live right next to it, but we know it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is the thing that we don't talk about, but we always know it's there. It's funny. It's like that is definitely. I think especially with New Jersey, that is definitely often a point of, because we do the same thing because we are kind of a similar distance from the city, and like it's kind of like the easiest point of reference is just saying we are X number of minutes from New York City, and so that way even if you've never been to this area, you generally kind of figure out where roughly we're located at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the landmark.
Yes.
The point. But I was like looking at my eyes directly when you signed on went to your banner or the wallpaper or whatever is like the movie theater popcorn, the reels, all that stuff.
This is you're in my TV room.
I love it.
There's all of I've got about 1,600 DVDs.
Yeah,
Whoa.
wow, I'm seeing this one.
Yo, I yes.
You know, over in the corner there, and I can give you the little tour. Here's my Pinocchio.
Oh, whoa!
Yeah. It's just an audio podcast, people, but you're missing a really cool Pinocchio.
And all of that.
Wow.
This is my TV room. When we moved into this house, it was an empty attic, and over the years, when you're young, I'll give you a pro tip. You want to have friends who are electricians and carpenters and plumbers and things, or have strong backs and can get sheetrock up 3 floors.
Yeah.
Turn this into an extra room. So,
nice.
And it's been mine. I got all my Batmans and my comic books, you know, all the signs that I never grew up. It's all here.
Wow. Ooh, you're just giving me so many ideas are sparking my head, things I want to ask you about. But first, I do want to know how Brendan, you brought this wonderful guest to us because I know you have worked together in the past with T-Squared Productions, which I believe is, it's virtually. Have you guys met in person yet? Or
No,
right? This is just in virtual.
No, that's kind of like the nature of like, especially this pandemic and COVID situation, for better or worse, that like a lot of these relationships that have been forged over the internet, right? Have you had a lot of experiences during the last couple of years where you've done theatrical productions virtually and had to kind of adjust to the new accommodations that's provided?
Yeah. And it started almost immediately because what's coming up on like Facebook memories and things like that are a year ago I was going to callbacks for the play that I just recast again last week. And the theater that we were going to do that wanted a virtual performance. So I look back at that first one and how much time I put into it. I had some fairly new actors, very, very eager, but new actors. And I wanted a lot of work with them, and I looked forward to that in the rehearsal room. And as we went on, and I got it in the virtual one, but as we went through, I must have done 12 or 14 things during the peak of COVID. But each time it was, everybody's really busy, everybody's doing 2 or 3 of these, so it's less rehearsal. You got to get to the point right away. And that was one of the big adjustments for me. And also figuring out where I could set up a space that I could put up a curtain and not have like a background.
Yeah. And what was the name of the play?
The play is called In Danger of Falling in Love.
And that's the production that you're currently working on, correct?
That's the show I'm directing right now. It's going to be at Villagers Theater's Black Box beginning May 13th for the next 2 weekends. So the 22nd, I think it ends. And it's what's exciting is that this is the first time it's being staged, so everybody in it is originating their role. And I was just looking at the people who are going to be in the show, and this guy, nice, huh?
Very handsome. Can confirm.
He's playing the goofy brother.
Oh wow!
I'm playing against type with some of these people, but he's really good. Great timing. It really made me laugh. And Brendan, I actually think of you as I'm doing this show because when we did the Disney villain,
and which was it? The Disney villain was in?
We did Prince John from Robin Hood as for our T-Squared production. Yeah.
Yes. And that was very, very good.
You and I met separate from with the actor, and we were talking about things, and I wanted some changes.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, "Oh, I'm a screenwriter. I'm used to my words being ignored." So I was happy to do that. I've worked with new plays before, one act, and the guy I'm working with now, I just had a hard time feeling him out. I guess he's a really great guy, and he was a little more protective of his words at the beginning.
Mm.
And I think I had to show him that I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to make it more artful.
Mm. Yes. Well, that's actually a great segue because, as we mentioned when we contacted you, there would be a challenge involved in this podcast.
Sorry, Brendan.
Where we will. I know I did too. The first challenge is remember the challenge. Second challenge is then give you the challenge. So we are to the second part of the challenge, which is telling you what it is, which is throughout the entire course of this podcast, feel free to interrupt anytime you think of an item on this list. The list is to name as many playwrights as you possibly can name. All up for grabs. Interrupt us whenever you want, and we'll put it on the board and tally up at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start with Mike Sokol. He's the author of In Danger of Falling in Love.
Cool.
So I think he go first.
Cool. How did you guys come into contact with each other? Like, how did that relationship start?
I actually knew his work before I knew him. The Union County Performing Arts Center, I don't know if they still do it. They had a winter one-act festival. There's a Chatham Playhouse has one in the summer called forgive me, Chatham, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a really fine one-act festival.
Mm.
And it's all open roles, and they've got writers and directors hooked up. And they did this in the winter in Rahway, and I was asked by a friend of mine if I would act in a short play he was directing, and it turned out it was written by Mike, who came up to me afterwards, and I was playing a news reporter, an old guy in Texas who was recalling the Kennedy assassination, and I changed something in it, and I didn't intend to. And I said to him afterwards, I met him, I said, "I'm so sorry," and he's like, "It's all right. It was better. What you did, it was better." Shoot. So that's how I first became aware of him. I didn't meet him until a couple of years later, when I did Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing at the Homedale barn, the theater there, which was a great experience, and it led to people from the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey seeing me and asking me to audition for a part in their production of Sam Shepard's.
There's another.
There we go.
We got 3.
Yeah. What was that again?
Did you get Shakespeare?
I got Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That's right.
Shakespeare.
Yes. The ultimate name drop.
The single dude or the group of people, we'll never know.
Yes.
So Mike and I played brothers in that production. I played Leonardo the Duke, and he played my brother, not the Duke. Don't remember his name. That was a great production. I'll just say one thing about it. The middle weekend, Sunday matinee, there was a horrible windstorm in Homedale. And the theater, the barn, is near the high school's athletic field. There are no trees. So the wind is just wham, hitting this building, and we keep back. And at intermission, the lights go out. It turned out a tree hit a transformer down.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
And we're all looking around, because there's enough light through the windows in the dressing room because it's daytime. And we look at each other, and I said to somebody, well, I don't want to stop. And no. So we did the rest of the show with everybody on stage or on the edge of the stage. It was done in a 3/4 round with our cell phone lights.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
You had to enter, you would hand your cell phone off to a person who was exiting. And because the theater has such small dressing rooms, during rehearsals, we were often in the seats while other scenes were being blocked. So everybody knew the blocking of the whole show.
Wow.
And it was just the most, and it's on YouTube if you search it out.
Wow. The show must go on.
The most amazing experience I've ever had.
Wow.
And only 2 people left.
Wow. That's the fun thing with theater, though. Stuff that just happens spur the moment, or the happy accidents, or obviously you have to just think on your feet, and then it just makes the experience so much more special. And then also the audience is doing it with the actors on stage all at the same time. You're all like, that's so lovely.
We bonded as one group.
Yeah.
The company included the people.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing day. And doing my favorite thing. I can't direct it. I don't feel smart enough yet for that, but I love to act in Shakespeare.
So take us back. When did you get the bug? The acting bug, the directing bug? I
first acted when I was 5 years old in our kindergarten production of Chicken Little. And I had a great part. I was the king. I was on stage all the time. I spoke a lot, but I had one line. I was King Well. And Ed was well. And my queen, played by the smartest girl in our throughout the grammar school, Debbie Amalfi, I still remember her. She would say, King Well says, ba 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 ba. She had to learn all the lines. We were 5 and 6 years old. After that, my interest was mainly in the movies. I love the movies. Go to the movies all day. I'd go to a movie on a summer afternoon when I was 13, 12 years old. In those days, it wasn't always easy to get your parent to say you can go somewhere you're alone at that age. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think it was more the subject matter my Catholic mother was worried about. I was going to be exposed to. But I guess my interest got stirred when I went as a freshman in high school to see a Broadway production of Butterflies Are Free, which is a play about a blind guy living on his own, comedy, falling in love, blah, blah. And I just thought, boy, there's something about that I just can't take my eyes off of it. And that spring, I attended our school's musical production of Little Abner. And I sat there and I knew right away. I said, next time they do this, I'm going to be in this.
Wow.
And I went home and my father picked me up. I was with my friend and he was like, what's the matter? And I said, something happened tonight. I'm expressing it as an adult, but I was 13. I said, I don't know, Dad. It was just what they were doing. And he was like, oh. And I never got a lot of encouragement from my father. See, if you can picture the Great Depression of the 30s as a boulder, my father's house.
Oh, boy.
My grandfather was stealing coal to keep the house warm. And so everything was about being materially secure.
Yeah, right. Stable.
And the next year, the spring musical was The Wizard of Oz, and I got in it. I mean, I was a chorus member, but they put me in like different features. It was this huge production that ended up having a Vietnam War, anti-Vietnam War vibe in it. They put in modern songs. The Beatles had a song in it. We had the core story, and I went to all boys high school. So we had girls' high schools from all around. There had to be 125 kids in this show.
Wow.
And we did 2 weekends. Now, this high school now is all about sports. They send kids to the Final Four, win the state championships. But when we had this show, we did it in the school auditorium and kept up this set that took up 2/3 of the gym for 14 days. that would never happen. They would never allow that now. But there was so much emphasis on the arts.
Yeah.
And I remember people who are adults now and were children then telling me there was such a buzz in the town about this show. And that's my whole life was this thing now.
Yeah.
And every time on stage, if I had a chance with a line, I made sure I stood out. You know, we had this line, we're supposed to be generals, and the order gets passed down. It was maybe at ease, and I would go and they would get to me and I would scream, at ease, to the next. Respect it. I was like, yes.
It's just that feeling, though. You just can't shake that feeling when you first, it's like imprinted on you. Also, yeah. What town did you grow up in?
I went to, I grew up in Elizabeth.
Okay.
And I went to Roselle Catholic High School,
gotcha.
Which was
okay.
all boys. It was a big, hairy deal when I got in. A very selective high school at the time. Still, my son went there, great school. And it had in 1970, the outrageous tuition of $600 a year.
Oh
God.
Outrageous.
Now, but...
That's the price of gas now.
No, of course.
my father took a nighttime job as a janitor to pay for it.
What about your mom? Like the working class, your parents, the work that they, what was the...
My mom and dad were high school sweethearts.
Oh.
And they got married after the Korean War. My dad came home. I'll tell you this story. And he planned to go to college on the GI Bill and become a high school history teacher. That's what he wanted to be. And his family didn't value education.
Wow.
And made him feel as though he was getting too big for his britches. So he married my mom and took a job as a machinist in a factory and lived I forget the writer's name, but a life known as a life of quiet desperation. He made sure we had everything he didn't have. Christmas at my house, you would have thought we were millionaires, the way they spent. My mom, I came along 10 months after they were married. So it was all about kids. My mother had 2 miscarriages between me and my next sister. So it was the job back then for parents those days.
Right.
Married, reproduce.
Yes, right, right, yeah.
Probably to the detriment. There were 4 of us, and I think nowadays, God, my sisters watch this thing. It was a lot for my mom. It was a lot for her. We have 1 child, and there was a time when we thought we were having a second one, and we were like, oh my God. My first question was, how do I love another one? I love this one so much.
Yeah. The biggest responsibility ever.
Yeah. And my dad worked, he at this place, he got a position of authority for an unskilled laborer. And when the place was sold, the new owners made him a manager. And his only regret was, he said, where were you when my daughters were getting married? For the cost of the weddings.
Yeah.
So that's their tale. My father died when he was 62 from a heart ailment that he had undetected as a child. Couldn't do anything about it. So I'm 65. I've outlived him by 3 years.
Well,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It is interesting from like generation to generation. They always have that. You do feel like you have a different set of what's the word I'm looking for? Just something that like hinders you, or the parents, or the expectations, or the like something that they like you're saying. My parents are Iranian, and there's a thing where when they came from Iran to come to this country, you want stability. You can't as you're somebody who's in the arts, and like that is like the very last thing they want somebody pursuing or different, because they have their own fears, insecurities, like stuff that they haven't been able to fulfill in their own life. And then it doesn't, but do you feel like you broke the cycle?
Well, let me say that what you're describing from your parents culturally might be different, but materially is the same, because that's what I got from my dad was take some business courses. It's great for a hobby, Ed. And, he would see me in shows and stand and applaud at that time. It wasn't that he stayed away from it.
Okay, so he was supportive to a degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
that they didn't come when I wish they had was when I was I was a sign language interpreter, professional sign language interpreter.
Oh wow!
I'm still fluent, but I can't. I'm out of practice, and I did it a couple of times on the paper mill, and they weren't able to come to see it for a health reason. But what you're saying, I mean, it isn't that different. It isn't that different, and you're in the arts. And I'm going to say a couple of things about that. First thing is, you shouldn't have to starve because you're in the arts. It shouldn't have to be, well, you're just, it's just a privilege to be here and do this.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
You can say bullshit, yes. Can confirm is bullshit.
But I don't think Tennessee Williams or Arthur Miller
Big
or
bang.
Harvey Firestein probably did. Jeremy O. Harris. Oh my goodness, did we spin around there for a second?
No, I thought we froze for a bit, but we're good. We're back. I was just saying in terms of, just to clarify that, even though it's, I mean, you just have different generations, even if it's different cultures, it's still, I still feel like everybody goes through that struggle of profession, of purpose. What do I want to do from your life? Your father had his thing, his parents had this, you have your thing, you did that, and it's, I don't know, you look back at it and you're like, oh wow, this is my life.
Stephen Sondheim, will that qualify?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say yes, just on the fact that, like, because I think some people would say that, like, a playwright in musicals is the librettist. However, there is much dialogue and much, like, story that is conveyed through the music. So yes, Stephen Sondheim gets a nod.
Along with Stephen Sondheim, I'll include Hugh Wheeler, who wrote the book for Sweeney Todd, and George Firth, who wrote the book for Company and Merrily We Roll Along. And Hugh Wheeler also wrote the book for A Little Night Music.
Yes.
I try to be very careful with my son. We did a lot of things intently, like he didn't have any broadcast TV until after he was 5 years old. He never ever maybe. At that time, the only TV in the house was in the attic, which is where in my room. He had video, curated stuff, Winnie the Pooh, not real highbrow shit, but we were all about books. And he grew into being a great reader. I recall taking him to a movie. He was 7 years old, and we had introduced Tolkien to him through graphic novels.
Oh, wow. And
he started to read, like, he could recognize, like, the Pathmark sign and knew what it was at 18 months. My wife's a teacher. She's saying that's really advanced. So he's 7 years old. We're going to the movies. And no, I'm sorry. He's not 7 years old. I'm giving him too much credit. He was like 8.5. And we go to the movies, and the girl taking the tickets is a girl who, when she was in grammar school, she's now his high school sophomore, she would walk him home from school as a kindergartner for us, little babysitting. And she's got The Hobbit sitting there. And for the ticket, my son says, "Oh, The Hobbit." And she says, "Yeah, I have to read it for my English class." He said, "I've read it."
That is pretty intensive for an 8.5-year-old.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Wow.
And after that, The Lord of the Rings. I try to do everything through multimedia. Like, there was the Backsheet animated movie. I showed him that to help introduce the characters. Any cheating I could do, I would do. But the greatest thing I ever did for him was the day I sat him down. And two things. The first one was I sat him down. Mary Agnes, my wife, was like, "Oh, I don't know." He had to be 5, maybe 5.5, coming up on 6, and I showed him Star Wars. And he watches this, and he's just like, it's literally like somebody put a giant jet engine in front of him and just blew him.
Blew his mind.
And the movie ends, and I said, "What do you think?" And I know what he was thinking was he had discovered action figures, and he was thinking there have to be little Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
What I said to myself, I said, you know something? What? I said, there's more. The best one is next. And then when he was 10, I think, on New Year's Eve, I introduced him to Star Trek through the movie First Contact, Next Generation, and that has become a common language for us. Okay. But I'm so stoned. I'm side branching on you.
That's the podcast.
We're getting a wealth of information.
This is how the relationship went as he grew up, and he just would. When Harry Potter came around, he wasn't interested. But this is right in your wheelhouse, and the only reason I had the book was because I saw in those days I read the New York Times on paper. And in the New York Times book magazine on a Sunday was an ad that big. This is all that big. Yes, and at the time there was a quote, best children's book since Roald Dahl, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I said, well, I'll get it for him. I got it for him. He looked at it. And I guess the artwork, a couple of days later, he said, I finished it. It was great. And I said, there's another book. It's like that, like Homer and the monkey's paw, that episode. The good news is we have frozen yogurt. Oh, the bad news is we have we have frozen yogurt. That's the good news. The machine's broken. That's the bad news. The good news is there's a book. The bad news is it's only being published in England right now. Because they didn't publish the first ones worldwide.
Oh, right.
I go back to work that Monday, and somebody in the office is talking about her vacation, and she says, I'm taking my daughter to see her relatives in London.
Oh.
I walked over to her, I gave her $40, and I wrote down the name of the book. And she went over, she got it.
Oh,
it's the odd-looking thing. It doesn't look anything like our Harry Potter books. Ours are like this big.
Yeah,
it's like big.
It's small.
And it's a realistic color drawing of Harry and Ron with pulling the bars or just trying to escape from his uncle's house in the ford at the beginning of the book. And when you take the paper cover off, that same picture is printed onto the hardback of the book.
Oh, so the British novel, the illustration was different than here.
Here's some more Harry Potter trivia. They had 2 editions after the book became popular. There was the one I'm describing. And then there was one for the first book that said Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in England. And it just had a locomotive engine coming at you. The Hogwarts Express. Yeah. That was the edition they made for adults who were self-conscious about reading the book on the subway.
Wow.
Huh. Oh, because it was like a children's book?
That's interesting. Yeah. So
Harry Potter was popular, but it wasn't yet the worldwide.
So do you still have the book from England?
I could probably go get it if you wanted to see it.
We can see it after, but that's a special thing now. I'm sure there's people that, wow.
I'm sure it's worth something more than the cover price, but it's battered. It's been read a million times. It was.
Yeah, but just that he has, the fact that he still has it, and also I mean, he's in a world of, or was introduced to a world of fantasy and sci-fi. So that is like, how is his imagination in general? How was he in school, or because I'm sure your imagination goes
My
wild.
son good at everything in school. He was valedictorian of his high school class.
Well, congratulations.
And they give out a thank you, a gold medal for being first in every subject area. He got like 7 of them.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
He got them for the sciences, for the math, for history. I don't think he got the art one, but we have like ink drawings that he did of the beach hanging over my dresser in our bedroom. He could have done anything. He played the piano.
Oh my gosh. Show off. When we have kids, we're going to be like, it's not as good as Ed's kid.
Yeah.
And
that's remarkable. That's great.
Valedictorian. And he got into the only school he didn't get into that we were hoping he would was Princeton, but that was because of Dad's ego more than anything else. He wasn't going to go. He got into Amherst, you know that.
Yeah.
And based on our income, 2 public employees, they thought that we could pay $44,000 a year. And as good as the school was, I had to say no to my son. I said, between us, we're going to be saddled with $170,000 in debt, and you'll never get married because who's going to marry somebody who's already got $100,000 mortgage, right? Yeah. Does it sound familiar to? I mean,
no, we've been lucky to. We've been lucky you don't have that. Right?
Yeah,
we've been both lucky. Knock on like I'm just saying we're actually just the lucky ones that do not have college debt.
Yeah,
I bet our parents also were smart about it.
Yeah, we Mary had said to him, he had, what other school should I apply to? And she said, well, we had a friend whose kids went to Loyola, Maryland. He put that down. They accepted him and offered him 4 years full tuition.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, that was when we left. I think the tuition was $47.
Okay.
But we just had to pay room and board, and we had a fund for that.
Yeah.
We had to. So he got to do that, and again, he double majored in Spanish and mathematics. So he had the arts. And when he was in high school, I directed plays at his high school, and I had him be my assistant director because even though he demonstrated when he would step in for a missing actor that he understood how to do it, and on that level would have been wonderful. Interested, but I had him there because there were scenes between boys and girls. And one year I did The Miracle Worker, and there was a lot of touching between 2 girls in the fight scene in that play. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would have him there, and when I was choreographing the scene, I would call him over and say, I want this, and I could jump on him and have him roll me over, and we would have practiced it. So he was really valuable to me that way, and he also kept me organized, which is a big thing with me. When I did the show, the casting for In Danger, a really good friend of mine, Liz Colagrande is her name. She's a really good actor. She's interested in casting, so she said, can I come and help you cast the show? And she did. She came three nights, organized everything, and kept me moving because I like to chat with the actors and give them notes like we're actually doing the show already. And she's like, no, you got to get him in and out. Yeah. So and the last thing about my son was he graduated, he was valedictorian of his college class, and was accepted to a PhD program in mathematics at Drexel, Philadelphia.
Wow.
Got a PhD in 2018. Went to the Netherlands on a postdoctoral fellowship for 3 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah, saw a lot of Europe.
That's beautiful.
He loves the UK. He spent a lot of time there. I've never been overseas, but he would go to the UK on holiday all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where would you want to go if you haven't been over here?
London.
Oh, yeah. London. Well,
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Vacation is a nice thing, but in later years, I've been fortunate to get a lot of work.
Yeah.
In fact, for almost 20 months before the pandemic, I was just doing show after show after show after show, acting, directing. I never said no.
Wow. Do you like keeping busy? Yeah.
And just to give you, it wasn't always easy. Like I said, I'm 65. I back then weighed 315 pounds. I was huge. And I had a knee replacement, and it failed. So I had this artificial thing in my leg that was moving around.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I had a show in Symphony Space in the city, and I'm coming up out of the subway, and I collapsed in the tunnel. so I had to do something about it. And my wife and I changed the way we eat and all that. You know, we sensibly eating. You know, not 6 pieces of pizza or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost over 100 pounds, and she lost 80.
Wow.
For 2 years, and I got both of my knees replaced. And we went to my godson's wedding in Chicago last weekend, and we danced all fucking night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking care of yourself isn't a bad thing.
No, it's not.
No, especially when it feeds into
really good thing.
like it makes you enjoy everything a lot more. Especially, I'm sure, especially being in the theater and being so physical, like you do need to be in good shape to just sustain.
Absolutely.
When I direct a show, I don't like to sit down.
I was going to ask, what is your approach?
I block very quickly because I want the actors to get a sense of what I want them to do, but I don't want them to memorize it.
Okay.
That some of it comes from them.
Okay.
You know, there every now and then there's a couple of beats that have to be a certain way, and certainly if people are going to be have to be aggressive towards each other, that has to be worked out step by step. And this show has a couple of fights in it that I will hope to bring a friend who's a fight choreographer in on it for a couple of nights. I hope I can get him because he's in band and going to be directing his own show.
How does being a director and being an actor and like alternating between those feed into the experience of each other and help improve each other?
Being an actor can sometimes, you have to be careful. Like when I'm working with people who like say to me, this is the last time I did this show. This is the first play I've ever done. You know, there's an old story about a great baseball player, Ted Williams, who became a hitting coach after his career was. I mean, he had 20/10 vision, so that's how easy he could count the stitches on the baseball as it came in. He became a coach and a manager and got frustrated because he would say to the hitter, "Just see the ball and hit it."
Yeah.
It was like, I can do this. Why can't you? You should be able to. I can do it. You should be able to do it. And you don't want to be that way with somebody who's new. It's like, no, of course. You got to turn around. You can't put your back to you. You want to, no. Yeah, we call it cheating. You have to cheat out a little. You know, simple things like that. Just remember when it was new for me.
Right. And it's communication.
I had to learn how to be specific with actors when I was a new director. It's easy to do it with the high school kids unless you get somebody who's decided, well, when I leave high school, this is what I'm going to do. And the years that I directed at my son's school, the kids were interested. A couple of them were really disciplined. The second play I did, the first reading, 2 of the kids weren't there. And it was 3:30. And I said, we're going to read at 3:30. And we started to read. They walked in at 4:20, and they say, "Oh, you started." And this girl, Vanessa was her name, stood up and said, "In Mr. Faver's plays, we start on time." And they sat there, and that's what I like to rub off on them, a little sense of discipline. But with the high school kids, they often want you to, and how do you want me to? And then what am I going to do? And that's like the last thing I want to do with grown-ass adults.
Yeah.
I might say, here's what I'd like to see in your intention in this scene, or we're talking, well, what do you think it is? And have a back and forth about it. I really everybody likes to get past the blocking as quickly as you can. Yeah. But like I said, I do it fast, but if somebody isn't getting it, I'll go back and try to be slower.
Yeah.
It's the kind of director like I am at the day job that I'm leaving to do the acting thing all the time. I'm retiring from my government job, and I'm going to go out there and have a lot of people say no to me a lot, take classes, things like that.
Yay!
Yeah.
More rejection.
It was a dream deferred. It doesn't have to be denied.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
But I usually start a production by having the cast of my house, and my wife cooks, and we read the play, and we get to know each other. I've worked with one director, Jess Sherman, 8 times, and mostly Shakespeare, and I generally would produce her show as well, and we would start with a Shakespeare boot camp in my house, and everybody you spend the day doing that and eating a lot of good food, and you get to know each other. I don't know if I'll get to do it with this one, but we'll see. I just cast it last week. I got a lot of funny people, which makes it easy. You know, if you cast the right people, it's not a lot of work for the director. And I had so much help with the casting this time, and actually got to see people who hadn't. I've been with this play for over 2 years, so stuff that's supposed to be funny is like, well, I've reading this for 2 years. I don't know. You know, how do you guys deal with that? Because you're funny people, right?
Well, yeah. Well, also, I think also to the point about like the evolution of something from when you first start it to the end of it.
The stages,
Yeah, because we're in the process of releasing a short film that we went through like the whole process of it, right? Where like you conceptualize it, you write it, you film it, act in it, and then edit it, and like in that entire process, you're constantly checking to make sure that you're like, is this still good? Am I still having like a sharp perspective on it? So I definitely relate to that part of it, of like the idea of like the art, like really trusting in your artistic brain, I think, and also being able to like really carry out the project no matter what it is from the beginning all the way through until the finish line, whatever that is. What
Brendan said, Brendan's very aware. I had like a lot of doubts at different times as the project was developing at different stages, because like Brendan was saying, it's one creature when it's written. It takes a different form when you're filming it, and it's a completely different, like the tone changes, what your perspective, everything through the editing stage, it's different what you thought it was going to be. And that's the struggle with film, is like what you think about it's going to be in your head never compares to what's on screen, because it just goes through so many different layers. But lucky for us, we have the 3 of us, Jordan, Brendan, and I, to like bounce our ideas off of each other, questions, or we trust each other's judgment. So if we're like exactly what you were saying, we're like, is this still funny? Because especially when you're editing so many times, you're just like, I've seen this clip 100 times. You're like, I hate this now. And you're like, is this even like, what chord is this hitting? What is the so it's but
it has to be a collaborative right. I was on my movie set last month for an independent film for the international market. It's from some guys from South Asia, India, and I was playing. I was actually just there to record lines. I was playing a mob boss whose daughter gets kidnapped, and I get the ransom phone call. Okay. And to see the many parts of it, even on a small independent film, and how technical it is, the acting. Because they sent me this script, and it looks like any other script, except I didn't have a shooting script. There was no pan here or that. All right, lines. And then they speak, and I speak. I get this. It's just like a play. I'm there, and I'm like, holy shit, this is nothing like a play.
No, it is very. The theater and on the stage is very different from film, because of course the fluidity is what's the word I'm looking for, is just like abstract. It's just it's interrupted when you have like one cohesive thing on stage, and you can do, you have this much time to go through these many acts, these many plays. Exactly.
You're able to live the emotional life of the character in the with the beats in the order they were meant to be in.
Yes. And with film, it's abrupt. It's just like, okay, take 1, take 5, you have to like, oh wait, stop, hold on. We've got to fix. If there's also, like you're saying, technical, there's sometimes hiccups. There's like just tech issues. We were filming with a drone and we had to stop because
we're in a no-fly zone. So that's a part of it too, though, right? It's like every project you do, you learn new things. Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, I guess if I'm like in a certain mile radius of an airport, then they just don't want things flying around.
You can't go over a certain altitude.
Yeah.
But the drone size we had, we didn't have to get a license or anything like that. But it's true because we're near Teterboro, we're near Newark Airport, and it was just something we did not think of. We're thinking, oh, we're fine by this altitude level, whatever, and a lot of it's trial and error. But yeah, we're doing it, and we have to do a running scene, which also this is very physical, and you just have to pause, wait, and whoever the actor is, like, you have to stay in your mindset. That's also a very different thing. You're being taken out of it because the scene has stopped, but you have to be able to go back in, pick up where you left off.
Connor McPherson, Martin McDonough, and Sean O'Casey.
What was the last one?
Sean O'Casey.
Yeah,
you know, in the Baycocket. This set was, I was waiting for the sound engineer to have some time to record me, and the set was this ripped out. It looked like it was an part office, part warehouse building, and it was like 22 degrees.
Oh my gosh!
And the girl is sitting. The costume was cut off shorts with sheer stockings, and it was like a summer outfit.
Yeah.
And I ended up I knew her from a play that we had just done recently where I turned into an owl. That's one where I should have had edibles. I would be standing on the side with a big coat, and every time they called cut, I would run out and cover her. And I also felt, I said to her, speak up. You're sitting here, again, this is not a privilege. They need you.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking speak up.
Yes.
That you need time to go stand by the heaters, have a cup of coffee.
Yes, you're a human, not a prop. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
And it was just so eye-opening because you have to concentrate in that kind of environment,
Yeah.
I'm talking the cameraman, the director, the sound guy, all of the people, the below the line guys. Everybody's got to concentrate, or you're going to be there all day.
Yes. It all has. Yeah. You don't want your days to be super long, and you're scheduling it so that. And of course, it's when it gets to if you're doing bigger budget films, you're literally burning money, and that's why you have a shoot schedule. But it's I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the younger people going into the industry do have that, they don't think of it. They do think it is oh my God, I'm just so thankful to be here and it's such a privilege, blah, 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 blah. And they don't speak up and say certain things because they think oh, but I'm down here. I'm not this significant, or I'm not this, I don't know. I don't feel like they have, just how they view themselves or the situation, getting them they get taken advantage of, and don't think of hey, there are a lot of elements here, if it's into now that we're having more and more people are aware of intimacy coordinators and people literally being on set when you have to do certain vulnerable scenes, and it's just this is, you have to walk through what your blocking is, your conversation, have the two people meet, you're very aware of what's going to happen in the scene, so there are no surprises, because again, you are a human, you're not a prop, and you're not maybe it's just an experience thing.
It probably is, because it's easy, it would be easy for me to say, I think you should this and this and this, because that worked for me when I was 26, 40 years ago, and I'm also thinking through the mindset of somebody who's made it here, largely unscarred, with $1 more in his pocket than he needs to pay his bills at all times. And I'm really looking like at you guys and my friends who are your age and thinking, how do we make this? How can we make things like what we're talking about, making the arts sustainable? How can that happen so that people don't have to be making shitty choices about their jobs? And I'm a real believer that at the root of everything is happiness. Mm-hmm. And if you say you're happy, then that tells me that you're materially secure, and what you do with your days makes you largely content, you know?
Yeah.
And go home at night, there's a human or a feline or a fish or something that keeps you company.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like the avenues for your generation or the generation that I produce, it's what I'm thinking is the avenues have narrowed, and it seems so unfair because it's time for you guys to start leading.
Mm. What do you mean by the avenues are narrow? Can you explain that?
I think, it's harder. Good paying jobs aren't as easy to find.
You've gotten worse or something?
While you're trying to make it, I'm not a great believer that you should have to pour coffee or clean out bathrooms or something necessarily. If you can find a second thing, not that replaces what you want to do, but that complements it, Mm-hmm. I have a friend who, when I've done shows with this person, they always have it seems like a full regimen of yoga poses that they stretch through before going backstage and putting on makeup and everything. And that person decided to get themselves certified as a yoga instructor. And through work, you can this kind of work that makes her content. I think it energizes to go back out for the big thing, and it also soothes the wound when you hear no.
Yeah.
Rather than going back to, hi, can I take your order, please?
Yeah, I do. It's circumstances. I don't know if it's people. I mean, it is a struggle for a lot of people, and some people are more fortunate than others to find those opportunities. But I mean, I do agree in the respect that I don't think people see it as paying your dues. I don't think you have to literally be, just.
Don't you dues in the rooms? Being judged. That's paying your dues. I don't think you have to, you starve. I mean, there might, like, if I go back out there after I leave state service and I take a pension, and I have all the privilege of what the government's going to have to offer now. My health care is free because I'm over 65, and I want there to be a way that everybody can have that. It's mostly free. I shouldn't say it's completely free, but you would want to have it. Okay, unless you got we had public service. A lot of times the compact was you work in public service for lower salaries, but you get more secure benefits, and that's kind of the trade-off that we've had. But my point is that I can go out there now. I'm stoned, and say, well, I'm going to go out and try to be an actor and audition for stuff and try to meet people and have go through all that shit. But when I come home, I have the security of the pension I earned.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it kind of feels like you have more freedoms now.
Yeah. And does that make me less hungry?
Because I don't know. Does it?
I can go home and have a lobster or something like that, or I can go home and not worry about paying the rent because my mortgage is paid. Mm-hmm. Where other I really want this job. I really need this job.
Yeah.
What's the greater fueling? And for me, the ultimate fuel is the one thing that's worth more than anything else, and you cannot fucking buy it. Yet it's priceless. It's time.
Yes.
It's time. And you guys, you're at the beginning, and I've made my choices. I've been down the road. I did everything I was supposed to do. My son is out, and he's a university tenure track university professor now, and I don't have all that much time. Maybe who knows? So I want to make the most of it, and that's where my urgency comes from.
Oh yeah, got you. Yeah. Well, hopefully you have a lot more time in you. Because you seem very young and energetic, and you do have a lot of energy still in you from like the conversation, and also like already like the work that we know you've done, and just doing also being somebody who is of the older generation. You are so with it when it comes to a lot of things tech, like anything, like we've seen you do like virtual stuff, and you're quick, like you're just very, and you're very like the excitement you have to work on every new project and every new set of actors is wonderful. But I also, just saying the last thing, I do agree that I don't think people should necessarily be starving artists, and I do think like their hunger, like it's just, I just don't like when people are stressing about all of this stuff, like finance, all this stuff just to live, and then life passes them by. That is because then it's just like where you're spending all your time being so stressed, and then you're not even capturing these moments that you want to, whatever your artistic lens is, or whatever the machine you put it through, be visual, be film, be painting, whatever it is.
I live in a dream world where we support the arts, and we have more regional theaters with apprenticeship programs and national theaters in our larger cities, but that we, I don't know where the money is going to come from for it, but from Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, honestly.
And places where actors can hone their craft, more support for what you need. I mean, I don't know that much about filmmaking other than I'm supposed to hit my mark, but that's about
it. That's all it is.
But I'm hopeful. I do think it is getting better. I do think our artists are supporting other artists, and they're getting other people, because especially when it went through the pandemic, people saw how much artists, entertainment industry, people who needed to be out in person working with other people, how much of that got hit, and it got hit hard. And people realized that everyone's creative, and the creativity, like that is where people go, is art, like where you find all these beautiful things in the world, where your entertainment comes from, where like your comedy comes from, your humor, where you're able to escape. That is this.
I think I got through the really worst of COVID because I was doing so many readings. And, readings that had rehearsal periods.
Yeah, it
was like my head would come up every few weeks when there was a gap between something. Of it, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then back down to 12th Night, or the last one that we did, the last big one we did was with T Squared, was Lear.
Oh yes, yeah.
We did 10 weeks of classes. First on Saturday mornings, and then 3 weeks of rehearsal, and then we did the reading. And I had my left knee replaced between the third and fourth class. So I spent 2 weeks like, oh, this is fun. Does this hurt?
Oh my gosh.
Until it started to get better, but I was able to make the most of it.
Yeah, well, that's all we can do.
Yeah. And if all of a sudden right now you discovered a genie lamp and you were told you must decide your 3 wishes right now, what would your 3 wishes be?
My first wish would be to ensure my son's lifelong happiness. That would be my first wish.
It's a good wish.
My second wish would be to give my wife and I another 50 years as we are now. That
Another solid wish.
It would stop. And, you know, I guess I'm supposed to wish for money,
or pizza, either one.
I really want to see, I would wish that we would dedicate ourselves to fixing the world for you and for the generation behind you. I think a lot about climate change and about the economical inequities that, you know, we're often accused of pulling up the ladder. I think for my own self, I was just more ignorant and not watching out. You know, we're not trying to do anything willfully, but just not being a good steward. Trying to make up for it. I don't want to be a bummer about it.
No, we're talking about a lot of deep, real topics for sure. We could go on and on.
Which would be that New Jersey would get its shit together and open the recreational pot stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In time, yeah.
Yes, well, that's what this is all about, right? It's like how in this way, like pot really does unify people, you know, and really, and there is something very conversation. It does. And there's something very like healing and very wholesome in a way about that connection.
Now, do you, either of you have a medicinal card, or you're getting yours from a private vendor?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. Card's not. It's a little expensive to get in. $300-$400.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's expensive.
It's a club.
Yeah.
Quality of the stuff is right on the money.
I do just want to, one of the last things, when you mentioned earlier, because I have to ask, that you have comic books that you saw. Did you see the Batman?
I have not seen the Batman yet. I still haven't seen Spider-Man. I've had no time.
Oh, well. You're so busy. Yeah, no.
You know, I'm a gym rat, too, so I'm trying to
cool.
I'm in the gym 6 days a week.
You're so well-rounded. Great balance. What would you, I have to ask, though, because you are a movie buff person, though, what are your major influences, movies, and then some of your favorite actors?
Okay, well, the movie that I live with, that plays in my head all the time, is The Godfather. All the time. Yeah. I was constantly. My favorite scene is when the Don comes down, and Tom Hagen, one of my very favorite actors, Robert Duvall,
yes,
says the words, tells the truth. If you've never seen his Oscar-winning performance in Tender Mercies, you should seek it out. It's a fantastic movie, and he just gives a wonderful, wonderful performance in it. So The Godfather is just in my head all the time, and that scene where he has to tell, they shot Sonny on the causeway, he's dead. And the Don, go back to the Don, and he just goes and collapses like that. So Coppola, you know, I know it's not politic to say, but Woody Allen was a big influence for a long time. I was, from the time I was in my 20s all the way up. Crimes and Misdemeanors is an amazing film. You know, and it's and the slapstick stuff as well. Let's see, another favorite actor. God, I'm going to think of them after I'm off the. Well, I love Meryl Streep. Always amazes me. I think Chris Hemsworth is the hunkiest man. You know? Those arms. I think he's so beautiful.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's got that personal trainer, the dietitian, that nutritionist, everyone on his team.
Yep.
Also, Brendan, if you could just count up his playwrights.
Oh yes, Ed. Before we wrap things up, did you want to add any more playwrights right at the end, at the buzzer, that you wanted to add to the list?
Lucas Nath, Eugene O'Neill,
You got a good list going.
George Kaufman, Moss Hart, Bernard Pomeroy, who wrote The Elephant Man.
Do we know? Yeah.
All right. So,
do we know who or who has the highest right now in 2022 for a podcast? I don't know. I wonder if he's exceeded it.
I think it's in the 20s. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite play, like a single play that is like the one that like really stands out in your mind the heaviest?
Well, there's always the play that I want to direct that I have not been able to convince the theater to do yet. It's a play that lives with me. It's called Mary's Wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Young woman in 1920 having a dream about her beloved on the night before she gets married.
You had the book right by you.
I read this. I pick it up all the time. I want to direct this play so badly. I have the actor to play Mary.
One day it will happen. Yeah. We'll put it out into the universe.
Yeah. Wait. What is it about the play that is why is it so hard to get this play produced?
I love. Well, it's not well known, I think, and it's two actors. And on a community level, they often there was this theater that I was at, and I thought I did a reading at. And they said you should submit plays here. I said, I have a play that's great for this space. It's called Mary's Wedding. Oh, and I said, but what? It has two actors in it. Oh.
Yeah, but they do Waiting for Godot. That mainly has two people.
But in an amateur theater, I don't know. I have it out, and I've had it out in a couple of places. I like plays that offer an opportunity to give people an emotional release. I direct a lot of stuff where people have a tear at the end, or they're moved at some point in the play. And this is about the body of the play is about a young woman having a dream about how she met him. And how they fell in love, very tentative young love. They don't even kiss early in the play. And then World War I breaks out, and this kid is a horseman. He's an equestrian. He teaches her how to ride in the play. And he wants to go and fight the Canadians. And you can guess how that goes. And the rest of the play is her interacting with him through the letters that he sends her. And she actually takes the role of this sergeant who's there to protect the callow youth. And it makes sense because since she has no visual weight on, she doesn't know what the guy looks like, so she just puts herself in it. And at the end of the you gotta see it. So there's that. Play that I like a lot. That I have the play that I like the most of all is called The Life and Adventures of Nicholas Nickleby.
Oh, yeah.
8 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah, that's long.
The whole book by Dickens.
Yeah.
I have a DVD set of it. They only ever put out one DVD, which is like a recording. They put a VHS recording on a DVD.
Yeah.
But it's all I have.
Yeah.
I got to see it in New York in 1986, the revival, in one day.
Wow.
1 in the afternoon till 11:30 at night.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, we appreciate you being on this podcast. Yeah. Your wisdom, your knowledge, your love of the arts, your everything. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes. I know you guys have a lot of funny people on, and
it's always a mix of people. No. Yeah. It's always just to connect with whoever the guest is, and everybody has a unique story, and everybody has great stuff to say.
Yeah, our goal is always with these sessions, in like whatever way it comes out, is to convey like really who the person is that we have on, and like have like who they are like translate through the audio medium, but also like really get people who tell very interesting stories and give really interesting like ideas and open up very interesting conversation. Yeah. And you were that in spades. And this is a wonderful conversation, really. And you got 17 playwrights that now people can check out if they need.
That's a lot of playwrights.
That's very good. And can you please plug your upcoming show and anything else that you want to point out
or
for
where people can find you?
Yeah, social handles.
You can find me on Twitter at OBX. That's O, B like boy, X boy, 107. and I'm just I'm the same on Instagram. And the play that's coming up is called In Danger of Falling in Love by Mike Sokol. It will be a world premiere at Villagers Black Box Theater starting May 13th that weekend, and then the weekend of the 20th. So we open on Friday the 13th.
Very, very cool. All right, cool. Thank you again, Ed, and thank you everyone out there from listening to Sessions with Mary Jane. As always, be looking at everything Late Night Hump, latenighthump.com. Follow us at Late Night Hump on all the social media. We have a bunch of we're always posting videos for you guys to laugh at and to enjoy. We're always having great content for you available. We have podcasts. We have Sessions with Mary Jane every single week. We have The Morning Shower, our morning news show with jokes that is every single day. So please check all that out. And Reena, final words.
Have a great rest of your life.